Hey everybody, I don't know if you've noticed, but they have this phone handset.
Cray, why is you doing that? She fighting the police, shouting like, oh my God.
It's an old classic style phone handset that is designed to work with a cell phone. You just plug it into the bottom of your cell phone. And it's got fairly simple mechanics, so I think we can turn it into something a little bit more interesting with one of these.
Cray, you need to stop. Get her the fuck off the police when she get fucking killed. What the fuck is wrong?
This is a vintage telephone lineman repair handset. They would use this when they're testing phone lines, when they're doing work on the actual utility grid. They basically attach these two ends to different wires, and then they can make calls directly from this and bypass all of the normal, systems of using a phone. What we're going to do is we're going to do a relatively easy mod. We're going to take the guts of this and put it inside one of these so that I can hang this on my jacket. And the reason a lot of people have been doing this, using these handsets instead of a cell phone, is that they're worried about cancer. They think that some people believe that the cell phone itself has a powerful enough signal that it can cause brain cancer if you are using your cell phone a lot and have it up next to your head. I don't know one way or the other, but I just think this is kind of a cool mod, and I like the idea of it. So it's definitely a little bit more of a dieselpunk style device. I believe this is 1950s era. When I got it, it's mid to late 50s, I think, not entirely certain. Got a couple tools over here, just because I figured I might need them in preparation for the project. And that is hefty. Could you imagine that's been wired to that thing for, geez, probably half a century or more? I like working on little projects like this that are relatively, they're not, I'm not festooning this thing in plastic gears, and I'm not gonna, try and claim that I designed a vintage lineman phone. I just think it's kind of fun to take something that is, a legitimate piece of functioning hardware from 100 years ago and update it with modern technology inside, because I personally just think stuff like this looks cool. I think that they put a level of aesthetic, or a certain type of aesthetic into it that it's just hard to find these days. It's very well made. It's even though it has a little bit of wear and tear and age on it, it's coming apart very, very smoothly, which means it was very well machined back when. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe this was old enough that this was probably hand machined by somebody. So this was someone really putting a lot of effort and care into what they were building. That's really cool looking. I'll show you in a second. There is the mechanism inside this thing is fantastic looking. This one might be a problem. This is a placement screw, which means you probably misthreaded it as a momentary way to fix it and lock it in place. Sometimes people break the threads. It mashes up the inside of the thread, which makes it very hard to pull them out. But it does lock it down, so if you don't plan on taking it apart, kind of fixes it. There we go. Oh yeah, look at that. Man, this is great. These pieces, we'll probably find their way into something I'm building. When I'm building a project, I don't just festoon. Like, the aesthetic that I use is very functional based. Like, I'm not going to take this piece and just put it on something and hope that people think it looks techy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to repurpose these pieces to be functional in some other way on another piece. I used to do art that was more decorative, and I think partly just from watching that get overdone, as people have sort of amped up what is called steampunk these days more and more over the years to become more like basically a parody of what steampunk used to be. I just need to clean. So as people have sort of turned steampunk into a parody of itself, I think the aesthetic is getting ruined. I think this handset might actually still work if you were to use it on something, which I think is awesome and fantastic. But not the project I'm working on. Good luck finding a telephone these days anyways. My parents have a phone at their house. In fact, they have like 5 of them, but I just do not understand. They have cell phones. I don't know why they're still using normal dial phones. They said that they get better reception throughout their house. I think they could have saved a lot of money by just buying a cell phone amplifier for like $50. And then they could use their phone throughout their house. But that's not quite the way my mom thinks. And looks like this gunk is all attached on here. I will call it gunk because that's what it kind of ends up as. I don't really know what to use these wires for. A lot of them are broken or worn out inside. You find out if you try and test them that they don't conduct anymore, which is probably why these things, end up in the garbage or at an antique store. And so I have a giant box. I hesitate to throw out antique, actual, partly functional antique pieces. So I've got giant boxes full of this gunk, or I've gutted something. Some of them are clockwork. Some of them are dieselpunky electronic stuff from the military, or this. So we have a nice, clean. One last piece left. Hello. Just filming a little art project here.
Cool.
Unscrewing, well, it's the longest screw in the world. Or it's a stripped out replacement screw. That's what it is. Yeah, this one's going to come right out because you can tell it's original. In fact, take it out with my hand. Right there. This replacement one, totally different screw. And this thing is more complicated than I expected inside. I legit did not expect this much technology to be crammed into this little thing. In fact, it's quite a bit lighter. I was a little bit worried that it might be too heavy to comfortably hang off of my lapel in my jacket. But after taking everything out, you see here there was actually more inside than there was outside of it. So it's actually quite a bit lighter. This could be in fact, these are about equal, so it'll be fine. When I first got this phone in the mail, there were little black plugs that were inserted into those, and I just used a needle and I just popped them out. Very simple, not something that you guys will have any problem doing. These just unwrap as so, and middle section comes out. The weight. As I said, you can see very, very simple compared to especially something like that. Now we just have to figure out how to get the wires out, which might require resoldering. Apparently this was made by steampunks. It has hot glue in it.
I'll call me super hot, boy. 100 degrees, leather jacket, cause I'm super hot, boy. I'm not a rapper. Super hot. I'm not a rapper.
So this is all soldered, and this piece isn't going to, I don't want to break this because I might want to use it at some point. This is, a vintage looking handset piece. So I'm going to cut these wires because I'm pretty good at soldering. It should not be a problem to get them all back together. Thankfully, they're all different colors and they're all very clearly here. So.
Operator, may I help you? Operator?
Are you the operator?
I'm long distance, sir. Overseas, may I help you? Directory assistance, may I help you, please?